Channel 1. Channel 1, mic 1. There we go. So, I wish we had time because I'd listen to the rest of the song because it was really interesting as I was listening to it today. And by the way, Trudy, Jeff even remembers that song. So. Anyway, so I was watching this video today and I was looking. Did you see his shirt? Zero. It says 0 on it. And despite all this rage, I'm still a rat in a cage. At the very end of the song, the last few lyrics are, I cannot be saved.
Yeah. It's all a lie.
Yeah, it's all a lie. Anyway, but that's what I was going to talk about today. Rat in a cage. So the word I want to talk about today is, it was funny because somebody was talking to me about this earlier, but the word's community. And this is what we're going to get into. I'm going to try to do this really quick, but I got a lot to cover because community is important. If you've heard me talk any around here at CR, you know that's what we're trying to build here as a family and community, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe.
Hebrews. Did you throw that up there? And let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works. Let us not neglect our meeting together as some do, but encourage one another, especially now that the day is of His return is drawing near. That's Hebrews 10:24. And so I want to encourage everybody to build community. So I want our community to be tighter woven, less backstabbing than what the world has. And I know I'm not great at that because I like to be alone. I like to be a recluse. And I like to, but I think here in this community, we need to work building one another up. I know a lot of time, what Michelle was saying, women like to get messy. They just like to gossip. Anyway, I'm get into this before I get in any more trouble. Won't go there. Oh, Romans 12. Would you throw that up real quick? I'll read a couple more scriptures here. In this way, we are like the various parts of the human body. Each part gets its meaning from the other body as a whole, not the other way around. Next verse. Should be another one there. The body we're talking about is Christ's body of chosen people. Each of us finds our meaning and function as a part of His body. But as a chopped off finger, a cut off toe, we wouldn't amount to much, would we? So since we find ourselves fashioned into all these excellently formed and marvelously functioned parts in Christ's body. There's more, but we won't get into that. I just wanted to see the importance here of a body and everybody working together, because a toe cut off by itself doesn't work very well. It's just a toe, just sitting there. So and this is the kind of the point that I want to get to, was this little, I heard this story because I like to do a lot of, I listen to a lot of stuff, even secular things, and I just try to learn. I try to learn as much as I can scientifically about a thing so I can prove it wrong biblically. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That sounds like you.
So I try to look into stuff, and addiction is one of those things that, if we, biblically speaking, we can debunk science in it, because science always leaves parts out. Always leave parts out. Anyway, in the 70s, there was a dude, and I can't remember all his name because this is something that I learned about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, so I didn't remember all this off the top of my head, but he had done some studies about the soldiers coming back from Vietnam that were involved in heroin addiction really bad. So what he did was take a bunch of rats and he put them in a cage. Thus the song, Rat in a Cage, right? And he put them all by themselves, and he put a bottle of water in there that was cleaned, and then he put a bottle of water that was laced with either heroin or cocaine, and eventually all the rats by themselves would go to the heroin or cocaine-laced water.
Yep.
And they would keep going back and keep going back to the point to where they killed themselves. They would overdose themselves because they were alone and they were nothing but a rat in a cage. And then he got this great idea that he would build rat utopia, so to speak. And he would build all these little playgrounds for them, these toys and things for them to swing on. And he put a bunch of rats in this cage and put these the rats were all by themselves into this cage with this big community of rats. And 80 to 90% of the rats, and they still had the tainted water and the untainted water, 85 to 90% of the rats would not drink the tainted water. So in this little experiment that he did, he says that it's not necessarily the chemical hooks, because that's what they tell us in addiction, you know, and I'm not going to argue if it's a disease or not. That's really not the thing. It says that the chemical hooks are so powerful that we can't let them go. But he proved in this little thing that community is more powerful than all this other stuff. The community is more powerful, and a lot of people are like, well, you know, this person is surrounded by this family, and this family is a really good family, but they still got an addiction. But that doesn't mean that in that family or that being of community that they were in, that they felt like they were a part of. Because how many people here in a family have felt like they weren't a part of the family, but you're still in the family? You know, you maybe had good parents or good this or good that, but you don't feel a part. And just like that video, you know, Smashing Pumpkins, he thought himself a zero. And still to this day, I think he feels that way. And that he's so lost that he can't be saved. Because it's more about the community around than really community in general. Anyway, this guy said that when the rats are placed in a community and can function properly, that they don't struggle with addiction any longer. And that's what I kind of wanted to talk about, was the community. What kind of community are we building here? And I know a lot of the responsibility rests on my shoulders, but then again, not all of it. You know, it shouldn't all rest on my shoulders, because each of us should be building a community. You know, we should say, hey, let's have this